Oh, good morning, Miss Hudson. I hope I'm not intruding. I just couldn't resist cutting these flowers for your sister after seeing her show yesterday. You must be very proud of her new success. On television, I mean.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how nice it is to be seeing all of her old pictures like this.
I'll tell you said so.
You know, my daughter and I would just love to meet her one day. Perhaps she could...
Mrs. Bates, my sister doesn't ever go out. She's, not fit to receive visitors.
Oh, I am sorry to hear that. I had no idea that... Well, I hope she likes the flowers.
Thanks. You miserable...
A modern day remake of Matthew Vaughn's Lay a Kick, a Coen brothers end up with Timothy Chalamet. A Citizen Kane prequel, a Midnight Cowboy sequel, Alvin and the Chipmunks deserving of the squeakquel. There's so many new ways to revisit Sideways, but a graphic novel is how we choose to update. But we still hold fast, you can't change the past on the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
I didn't bring your breakfast because you didn't eat your din-din. This is a sentence made up of two parts, the main idea and a reason for that idea. The main idea is I didn't bring your breakfast, which includes the person doing the action, I, the action itself, didn't bring, and what was affected, your breakfast. The second part starts with the word because, which shows that a reason is coming. You didn't eat your din-din. In that part, you is the person doing the action, didn't eat is the action, and your din-din is what wasn't eaten. The word din-din gives the sentence a playful tone, even though the structure is otherwise straightforward. And speaking frankly, it's what turns an otherwise ordinary sentence into a memorable classic film quote. And seeing as how it's one of the most remembered from this week's film, how could we not discuss it right away? Greetings, Starfighters. This is Ruined Childhoods, and you're listening to our season featuring movies that have complete sentence titles. I'm John, and I'm here with my brother Dan to celebrate the 1962 thriller, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. All right, Dan, let's say you're a team captain in gym class, and you're picking first for your dodgeball team. Do you go for Bette Davis or Joan Crawford?
Oh, okay. See, I thought you were going to say Blanche or Jane, but okay. Do I go for Bette Davis?
I feel like Blanche or Jane, it's a little bit more obvious, but...
All right. And wait, did we say it was dodgeball?
We said dodgeball, but if you have strong feelings about a different gym class sport...
Nope. Dodgeball is where I'm seeing it. I'm going Crawford.
Good choice.
Is that your choice as well?
I would have gone Crawford, but I guess I have to go Bette Davis. I feel like Bette Davis is more of like she fights with her words, and Joan Crawford, well, I guess for her, she has the potential to be physical, but she will abuse you emotionally to the point where once she actually throws the dodgeball, there's nothing you can do about it.
You're just in tears because of everything Crawford has yelled at you from across the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Meanwhile, and then, yeah, whereas with Davis, you'd be in tears later after reading everything that Davis said about you.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Now I'm imagining this dodgeball game, and I'm imagining Joan Crawford like in those high-waisted pants and the blouse and just like the hair all done up with like the front. I don't know what you call that look, but like the bangs that defy gravity.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just that classic Joan Crawford and have her, I'll teach you to throw balls at me. And just like the rage. I feel like if you hyped her up properly, and if you're just like, Joan, everybody else on that team is your mother, like she would just have annihilated them.
Yeah. Totally.
I'm actually afraid she would pop the dodgeball though with so much aggression and nails.
Just holding it.
Yes.
Just
holding
by
it.
holding it.
Just holding it. I'm afraid she'd be like, and it would just explode.
And I gotta say, like, is there a more intense, and we've seen plenty of celebrity feuds, but has there ever been a feud more intense than the two of them? I mean, they literally had a show about them called Feud.
Oh, yes, which I watched
Which you watched? How was it? A Ryan Murphy classic?
A Ryan Murphy classic, but like honestly, it could be the quintessential Ryan Murphy classic. And so for those who aren't familiar with the glorious feuds of the golden age of Hollywood, Bette Davis and Joan Crawford were feuding almost as soon as Davis arrived on the scene, which was Crawford was already a star at that point. And when Bette Davis arrived in Hollywood, very, very quickly they were kind of pitted. It was, Joan was the star, Bette was the actress.
Right. And in the research that I did, it seems like a lot of the feud also stemmed from Bette Davis trying to steal away Joan Crawford's husband, was it Franchot Tone or something like that?
Right, Franchot Tone.
Franchot Tone, yeah. I couldn't remember how to pronounce his name. Who, of course, Joan Crawford was like cheating on all the time, but like, I guess Bette Davis was trying to get in his pants, and it just was an instant battle between the two of them. And
of course, to put things in context, women in Hollywood were treated even worse then than they are now, and women were exploited, and they knew, and women like Davis and Crawford knew what they had to rely on. So in looking at their feud, which was certainly very mean-spirited, but you can't say that they are the only two people involved, because at least according to Ryan Murphy, you had a Hopper gossip columnist who was stoking the flames. You had different directors, Robert Aldrich, the director of What Happened to Baby Jane, had a interesting relationship with both of them. Feud at least shows that he ended up sleeping with Bette Davis.
Yeah, and I believe that Feud is slightly fictionalized, but I'm sure that like the main things it's doing are probably pretty accurate.
I mean, interestingly enough, and I went online and I just kind of, looked up briefly how accurate it was, and I get the sense that it might be more accurate than I thought it might be.
Wow.
And there are certain stories that I had heard about, like Joan Crawford weighing herself down for a scene when Bette Davis has to drag her across the room. Like that, I guess they also show that I think the wig that Bette Davis wears in this was a wig that had been worn by Crawford in a movie like 30 years earlier.
Oh my God.
And just to
These
kind of,
ladies.
while we're talking about the feud, I guess we'll get that out of the way. Now, and of course, this is according to the Ryan Murphy miniseries feud.
Yeah.
But as I looked into, this was actually true. Crawford, during the Academy Awards, Bette Davis was nominated for an Oscar for What Happened to Baby Jane. Joan Crawford was not, and Joan Crawford was allegedly kind of the one who actually got this project going and put it together. And once the Oscars started, Joan Crawford was going around kind of politicking against not just against Bette Davis.
This is very true, yes.
But conspiring, and this was crazy. This was one of those where I was like, this can't be true, but it also must be, because there are so many witnesses to it and people who can attest to it. But two of the other nominees, Geraldine Page and Anne Bancroft, were viewed as not likely to attend the ceremony. So Crawford went to each of them and convinced them to let her accept the award on their behalf. And according, again, to Ryan Murphy, this was Hedda Hopper's suggestion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
said,
didn't know about any of the Hedda Hopper stuff.
oh, yeah. Judy Davis plays Hedda Hopper in it. And
Okay.
the performances are wonderful. Jessica Lange plays Joan Crawford.
Right.
And she's wonderful. Susan Sarandon plays Betty Davis. I almost said Gina Davis.
I do feel like, just real quick, I feel like Jessica Lange and Faye Dunaway, they have both played Joan Crawford, and I understand how, like, the two of them, I feel like if they're actresses of the era that I confuse with one another, it's probably going to be the two of them. And so the fact that they both played Joan Crawford at like different stages too, like, it makes so much sense.
You confuse Jessica Lange and Faye Dunaway?
Sometimes.
Oh, okay.
It's mostly if I'm just like, wait, which one was in, I don't know, 3 Days of the Condor, you know, and it's just like, it takes me a second to be like, oh, right.
Yeah.
For some reason, or like Network, it sometimes just takes me a second because I feel like there's a similarity between the two of them that just binds them together for me.
Dermot Mulroney, Dylan McDermott, here we are again.
Bill Pullman, Bill Paxton, I don't know.
I know, right?
Some, like, I can't see it, but when other people say, no, I swear it's a thing I have, then I'm just like, oh, well, Jessica Lange, Faye Dunaway, I get it.
Hey. Oh, but yeah, and there are definitely references to Mommy Dearest. And there's a conversation at one point which I assumed was invented for the purpose of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink, where I think it's Betty Davis talking about how Joan Crawford thinks Faye Dunaway should play her in a movie. They're talking about Faye Dunaway, and she's like, "Oh, Crawford thinks she should play her in a movie."
So I did most of my research by listening to season 8 of You Must Remember This, the Karina Longworth podcast series. That's all about like old Hollywood stuff. And it was all about Joan Crawford. And so, yes, all of that stuff is in that as well. So I can confirm that like those weren't fictionalized aspects because they were, you know, certainly co-signed by this very factual representation of what went down. But I know we're talking already so much about Joan Crawford and Betty Davis and not as much about the movie, but
that's great because then when we get to the movie, we could focus on the movie. Another interesting observation I had from Feud was, so Joan Crawford's birth name, her first name is Lucille. Betty Davis calls her Lucille a lot. And as I was watching the movie, I got such Lucille, not just Lucille Bluth, but the Lucille Bluth versus Lucille Austero from Arrested Development vibes between Betty and Joan. And there were like so many coincidences that I was like, oh, wow. I'm like, of course, Lucille Bluth is probably at least in part inspired by Joan Crawford.
Yeah. Maybe
fits the bill. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And, or at the very least, Jessica Walters' performance definitely has some hints of Crawford. Brilliant performance.
Sure. Well, I mean, I feel like Jessica Walter was using kind of the transatlantic accent to a certain extent. I mean, she always kind of naturally had it, but like it seemed accentuated. And I mean, Joan Crawford for sure used that regularly. And
I mean, that was the old Hollywood. That was they all had to use that. Yeah. The old
but
Mid-Atlantic.
I also felt like it was more pronounced with her than it was for Betty Davis. Betty Davis had more of a character thing going on with the way that she spoke, except for the moments when she was doing her impression of her sister.
Right.
But anyway, Dan, why don't you do a synopsis so we can get into this movie?
Okay. All right. Here we go. Sisters Jane and Blanche Hudson used to be showbiz royalty. Blanche was a successful screen actress admired by Hollywood, and Jane was a young singing and dancing vaudeville performer. But after Blanche is paralyzed in a car accident, Jane becomes her live-in caretaker, riddled with the guilt of being her sister's automotive assailant. Many years later, Jane has become even more disassociated with reality and resentful of Blanche's fame, doing whatever she can to restore her own celebrity while embezzling money from her sister. But as the lies and unruly behavior crescendo, Jane's mental well-being and the truth about their past both begin to unravel. Bette Davis plays Jane. Joan Crawford plays Blanche. Victor Buono, I would say, rounds out as Edwin. Oh goodness, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. But Victor Buono, who I was like, I had heard the name and couldn't place him. King Tut on the Batman series in the 60s.
And yeah, he's Edwin.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, and Victor Buono also figures largely into the Feud miniseries, becomes a close friend, becomes a close friend and confidant of Bette Davis. And of course, Victor Buono was gay, and that so that he and his friends kind of become Betty's acolytes, because Victor Buono was also cast in the Robert Aldrich Bette Davis follow-up to this, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, which initially also starred Joan Crawford.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then she was replaced by Olivia de Havilland, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones in Feud, while we're at it.
Wonderful.
So yeah, and interestingly, it is directed by Robert Aldrich, also known for The Dirty Dozen, and based on a novel by Henry Farrell. Interestingly, it was produced by, so it was released by Warner Brothers, but finance produced by Seven Arts, who also that year made Lolita with Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah. And I was, and actually the son of like the head of Seven Arts, one of the execs at Seven Arts, his son met Bette Davis's daughter on the set of this and married her.
Whoa.
And actually, Bette Davis's daughter, BD, plays. So rounding out the cast, we have the neighbor, Mrs. Bates, and her daughter, and the daughter is played by Bette Davis's daughter, who's credited under her adoptive father's name, allegedly because her performance was not very good, and Bette didn't want her credited as Davis. And
oh my God, these people.
As Mrs. Bates, the kind of well-meaning, slightly nosy neighbor, Anna Lee, who audiences might recognize from another 1960s classic, The Sound of Music. She plays Sister Margareta.
Right.
In that.
And I think that she went on to, she was in like some soap opera for like a zillion years.
Yeah,
or something.
I mean, yeah, she was, busy, worked. This probably, one of her most prominent roles.
Yeah, for sure. I liked her character. I thought that was a really fun element to it.
Yeah.
The whole setup of everything, where we're kind of introduced to the like present day, at least in the terms of the movie, living situation of Blanche and Jane is really wonderful. It feels like yes, it's a nice house, but also it feels like a very ordinary living situation, considering the like mondo stars that these people were, mostly Blanche. And what we didn't, talk as much about yet is kind of like how Blanche was, after baby Jane like started to kind of fade out of the spotlight. Blanche became like a really well-respected and beloved film actress, and part of her deal was that her sister would appear in all of her films, like in bit roles and stuff, but like nobody liked her. Nobody thought that she was any good. It was all about Blanche, and Blanche just had like endless money. She was like uber wealthy, and so now we're kind of seeing them years and years later after this accident that left her paralyzed, and they're living in a very normal looking house. Like the kitchen is kind of small. I mean, yes, it's in Los Angeles and it's a very beautiful house, but like it's not a mansion. It's
I don't think this is
honestly
Beverly
kind
Hills.
of modest. Nope, it's in Hollywood somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was interesting because I looked up because I thought the exterior of the house looked really familiar. I actually thought it might have been the house that they used in Bugsy, or at least the exterior of the house from Bugsy. It was not, but the neighbor's house is the house of, I want to say, Steve Martin's character in Bringing Down the House.
Oh my God. Weird.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Totally random. But
that is totally random.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of how they introduce it. Is they have these neighbors saying like, oh boy, do we ever? Because they're like one of Blanche's movies is on TV.
Yeah. Well, I really what I was kind of getting to is that I really like that it is practical locations. It's not like a backlot street. It's a very real feeling Los Angeles neighborhood. When we do go out into the area, it just feels like it's a very real situation, and it almost is kind of like you never know what's happening next door to you. And very much like literally to some of the characters next door to them, there's this whole thing going on and they have no clue what's really happening. And it's just like this complete meltdown of psychosis going on. And man, it is a blast to watch. I had a lot of fun watching it.
As did I. And, it makes me think, I wonder, how many of those, real life examples where they're, kind of a quote unquote ordinary person living next to, a fallen star. And we've heard the story so many times of, enjoying the heights of fame, but it fades away. And, there have been real life, not exactly Blanche and Baby Jane, but real life, actors and stars who just kind of, withdraw from society because they can't.
Sure.
They have trouble not being the toast of the town, anymore.
Yeah.
But this is such a fun movie, and was this your first time watching it?
This was my first time. How about you?
It was my first time. I had definitely hovered around it before and always been there. Like, you've got the poster art behind you. I love the poster art for it.
Oh, it's classic.
I like Bette Davis's look in it, and her both of the performances are great.
Amazing. And it's almost like people have tried to replicate Bette Davis's performance, and it's just like you can't do it.
You watched,
I don't know where she really came up with how she was going to play this character, and she just nailed it. And anybody else who tries to do something like this is just going to crash and burn.
Yeah, and I mean, Feud makes it seem like this. It was like the look was her idea, and she just was like, okay, who's this? Like, and I don't know that we've made this really that clear, but like she was a child star. The opening is her performing this vaudeville and singing this song,
sold out. Mm-hmm.
Yep, singing "I've Written a Letter to Daddy," which comes back in such a wonderful way. And and they have dolls, and like the father is he goes, and he's played by Dave Hillick, and he's got such a great look for it.
Totally.
And he's the stage dad. He goes on and performs with her. And then I love they have that whole public scene backstage where everybody's out there wanting to meet Baby Jane, and Baby Jane, who's, 5, 6, 7, wants ice cream and is having a tantrum and really pushing the dad and really making a show of it in front of people and being manipulative. And there's also, just to focus on that one part, because it's easy to forget about it, but also the actress who plays young Blanche standing in the wings, and she's got the bangs.
She's very good.
Non-gravity defying bangs. And it's like, and there's such that ominous moment where the mother's like, someday it'll be you, Blanche, someday you.
Yeah.
And I hope that you treat them better than they treated you. And Blanche is just like, oh yeah, I'll treat them well.
Yeah.
And man, like, who knows? I mean, I know this movie is it's from 1962. I'm reluctant. There are certain things that they're about to come out of my mouth that reveal like certain things about where the plot ends up going. I'm like, I don't want to give it away.
Let's try not to spoil it.
I don't want to give it away.
Let's try not to spoil this one, even though it's been out for so long. It's just one where it's like, if you haven't seen it, the things that are revealed are surprising. It's not stuff that you can really see where it's going to go. And it's really satisfying.
Even if you do, the way that it comes out, the dialogue, and again, the performances.
Yeah.
Both of them, but like Bette Davis, really. She's got the show your role. I mean, she's not in a wheelchair.
It's the more fun character.
Yeah.
It's definitely the more fun character to play because you can really go out there for it. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but that element to it was hard not to think about what I'm going to say later as kind of my idea for how to bring it back, which is what we do on this podcast. But like, this was one where as I was watching it, like the gears were turning the whole time, and because it's one where it's just like, how do you crack the code for this? Because it is so. Such an individual piece of art that there's no way that anybody could ever do something like this because of every single piece of it that happened to make it come together.
You're so right, and we're not there yet, but I'm so curious. But let's though. I mean, focus on the performances, but also the direction. There is some stuff being done in this movie, and the cinematography, the editing as well. There are things going on in this movie that are, I would say, a little bit ahead of their time in terms of like character portrayal and things that.
What stuck out to you?
I felt that and I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't, seen enough classic cinema, but just a lot of like the unraveling of the characters and the really surreal, like there's that shot of Blanche in her wheelchair and like in circles. I forget if I think it might be after she's served one of the surprising meals that I forget if it was
we'll come back to that in a minute.
I don't know if it was the din din, but and she's just like spinning. There's this overhead shot and she's spinning in the wheelchair and it's so cool. And then the scene when, so Edwin, the Victor Buono character, is a pianist who lives with his mother and he needs work and he sees this ad. He answers the ad and he ends up coming in and, develops a relationship with Jane. And then he accompanies her when she does this in-house performance. She has like the stage lights set up and everything of I'm writing a letter to Daddy, or I've written a letter to Daddy, but with the makeup, because she's still made up like she's that little girl.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And her voice, but she's old and like her voice is shaky, but she's like trying to do it like she's 5.
Yeah.
And it's so creepy and surreal.
Unsettling. Yeah.
It's unsettling, right? And I just feel like there wasn't as much of that happening at the time. And it felt like a movie that was really going to end up having an influence 10, 20 years later. I feel like in the 70s, we start to get a lot of thrillers and horror that come back to that like go to that level of repulsion.
Yeah.
Definitely. But it definitely felt before its time, and like it was kind of a surprise success.
Sure. Yeah.
Davis and Crawford were not bankable stars at that time.
No, well past their prime in so many ways.
But
so it's kind of a miracle that it happened. And, I know that a lot of it, this is not too long after Joan Crawford got out of her a contract with, was it MGM? I forget who she was with before, but like she kind of had this, career resurgence. And I think Johnny Guitar might have been the one that kind of started the resurgence. And
Right. Was that?
Oh my God!
She won the Oscar for Mildred Pierce in 46.
Yeah, well, for Mildred Pierce was her big like breakthrough role out of once she's kind of in these out of her original contract. And so Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, it is very reflective of reality because she is a star who's faded. Mm-hmm. And for both of those characters, both of those actresses were going through something similar where it's like the world has kind of moved on to the next generation of stars. I mean, just thinking about like, right at this time, like Psycho is coming out, and we have Janet Leigh, and we have this like new generation of actresses coming through that have a very different style and a very different persona, even off screen, than people like Joan Crawford and Bette Davis had. So it's a fascinating time for both of them personally, and it's reflected in the movie in such a cool way. And I don't know, I just think that that's really fun, and it helps to know the context, like the context helps supports the content in this way. Yeah. And sometimes when the content relies on the context, it feels like a bit of a bummer. But in this situation, I feel like I'm not mad at it one bit.
Well, I also don't think it necessarily relies on the context. I think the content stands on its own. The context just adds a whole other world.
It amplifies
of appreciation to it.
Right.
Like, I think, I think in this case, knowing the context makes it much more interesting to the viewer, though I would say it's interesting to the viewer regardless.
Right. I mean, and that's why this movie, it's a complete cult classic.
Yeah.
And it's weird to say cult classic because it was extremely successful. It had a lot of Academy Award nominations. There was one win for, I think, wardrobe and makeup. So one of those categories. It's certainly no slouch of a movie, but not that anybody really expected that from it, but it happened in a pretty big way. And it's gone on to kind of create this like whole other fandom for it. It's huge in gay culture and in camp culture and in drag culture. Mm-hmm. I'm going to actually go ahead and I'm just going to read the Wikipedia portion of Legacy because there's so much that it wouldn't make sense to just try to sum it up in my own words.
Yeah.
But it says the film's success spawned a succession of unrelated horror and thriller films featuring psychotic older women, later dubbed the psychobiddy or hagsploitation subgenre. Among them are Aldrich's subsequent film, which also starred Davis, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, Lee H. Katzen's Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice, which has an amazing poster too. Curtis Harrington's Whoever Slew Auntie Roo, that one feels like a bit of a stretch, and What's the Matter with Helen, which is with Debbie Reynolds and Shelley Winters. And I haven't seen those, but I really want to, and they would fit in really well with this season of the podcast. They're all complete sentences.
I'm like waiting for I'm like, and we don't talk about Bruno.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Nope. Not even close.
Yeah, I'm going to skip a little bit. And then related works. Okay, so in 1991, the film was remade as a television film starring real-life sisters Vanessa and Lynn Redgrave, which I watched. It's on Amazon Prime. Dan, holy hell. They made some interesting choices with this one. And you would never guess the changes that they would have made. But first of all, Lynn Redgrave, who is doing the Bette Davis role, she's the Baby Jane role. And of course they like adapted to go with the era that it's being made in. It's not like it takes place, prior. Mm-hmm. So it's like she's a television or, like she's just a regular actress in musicals and whatever. It's not a vaudeville thing. And Vanessa Redgrave, of course, plays the Joan Crawford role. And it is challenging. But like the neighbors next door, Blanche is trying to yell over to them to get their attention, but the music's turned up really loud and they're both doing like jazzercise basically. And it's just very strange in that way. And the Edwin character, instead of it being a pianist, he works at a video store, and that's how Jane meets him. And he's played by John Glover, who you would know from Gremlins 2, and amongst many other things. Right. He's Clamp, the Donald Trump character. And he is extremely over the top. And what we learn is that, and the movie does nothing to really admonish him for this, but I think he's a child pornographer. I think that he made some sort of illicit video with these twin boys who straight up tell him, like, you better pay us or we're telling because we're under 18. And so he's owing money to these, these twins. And he is basically going to say he's saying to Baby Jane, we're going to get you back on stage. I'm going to manage you. I'm going to get you a spot on this show, and it's going to be huge. And what ends up happening is that it turns out that it's for a duet that she would have normally been doing with Blanche. But since Blanche is, tied up in the house and half dead, John Glover's character is in drag as the Blanche character, and they're lip syncing to this whole thing, and Jane freaks out and loses it and everything. So
there we go.
Yeah, it's wild. It is completely bizarre, and it definitely feeds on the camp appreciation of the original, and it really tries to do a 90s queer forward representation of the movie. And oh boy, and it's made for TV, but it's challenging. It's a very challenging one to watch for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I remember at some point. I don't think I ever saw it, but I remember hearing about it or someone talking
Vanessa
about
Redgrave. Vanessa Redgrave was good, but Lynn Redgrave was just trying to do Bette Davis, and that's what made it horrible.
Oh, yeah, there we go. No, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and like the last thing says, in the film Space Jam: A New Legacy, Baby Jane Hudson makes an appearance as a spectator watching I kind of want to watch that now.
So I remember when that came out, they were just like, they just went into like the Warner Brothers catalog and plucked random characters and put them in here.
I mean, I'm surprised Ready Player One doesn't have Baby Jane.
It's essentially, it's the same type of thing. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep on reading intercultural references. In the Warner Brothers produced horror film House of Wax, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane is shown screening in a continuous loop in a movie theater. In 2006, Christina Aguilera adopted a new alter ego called Baby Jane after Bette Davis's character in the film. Weird choice. In season 2, episode 4 of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars, the drag queen's acting chops are tested in parody film sequels of RuPaul's favorite films, a parody of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane called What Happened to Baby JJ was made by Alaska and Alyssa Edwards. Inspired by the film, British comedy duo Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders created the episode Whatever Happened to Baby Dawn. Blah, 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 blah. And then, the Space Jam, A New Legacy one. But yeah, it's a movie that people will keep on coming back to probably forever and using it as a reference. And it's just that kind of movie. And hey, respect. That's all I got to say.
Mad respect. Yeah. Mad respect for Robert Aldrich.
Sure. Yeah.
Wrangling all of that. Alfred Molina plays him in Feud, by the way.
Just looking at like pictures of him, which if you go to like his Wikipedia page, the picture is him like directing Bette Davis on the set of Baby Jane, kind of like doing a little bit of dance. I could see Molina playing him. That's for sure. He's
very good. Stanley Tucci also plays Jack Warner, and he's a lot of fun.
Of course, you got to get the Tooch in there.
Never a bad time to have Stanley Tucci in a movie.
Yeah. And Aldrich also did the movie The Longest Yard, which I watched not too long ago.
Oh, right.
And that's a fun movie.
I forgot.
Burt Reynolds.
Of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The movie that Albert Ruddy, the producer of the original Godfather, he didn't produce. He didn't work on Godfather 2 because he wanted to do Longest Yard. I think he developed Longest Yard. Yeah. So
cool.
But yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot Robert Aldrich. I just remember I was like, Robert Aldrich. Where do I know that name? Oh yeah, Dirty Dozen.
Well, you know what? And I feel like for him, it's probably The Longest Yard that I remembered him from because I saw that one more recently, and I probably was like scrolling on my phone while watching it, being like, "Who directed this? Robert Aldrich?" Yeah.
But that's great because that's not like Robert Aldrich is not a name that we think of, and at least through the Ryan Murphy lens, and I think this was in reality as well. He was viewed by studio execs as just kind of like a workman director, a B, like Jack Warner calls him. He's a B director.
Sure. Yeah.
But look at he's got some bona fide classics to his name, and also 3 very different films. If you look at Longest Yard, Dirty Dozen, and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, you would not think the same.
Totally.
I mean, maybe Dirty Dozen and Longest Yard, but still, you don't think. Of course, this is the work of the same filmmaker. But it is, right. And I think that a lot of people have said that and looked back, and that's kind of a common we're looking back at Robert Aldrich and saying the guy deserves more respect than he got.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Kudos to him, and of course, making a film fronted by 2 women, older women, not bankable stars. So. A lot of risks being taken, and I feel like they all paid off. This is a fantastic movie. I would love to show this in a theater and get a night, just get an audience. I would love to go see
People
this.
Get riled up,
but with a Rocky Horror style audience. I don't want to go see it with people who've never seen it before.
Yeah. Oh, what do they call there's certain screenings that a lot of theaters do, and they call them something specific where it's it's meant for a rowdy crowd, right? You are encouraged to shout and make noise and not just sit there. So
I mean, I'm sure
this is that.
I'm sure it is done frequently, although I haven't. Of course, I was looking around at the revival cinemas around Seattle. It's might it possibly be playing anywhere? No, but yeah, someday.
Yeah, but you never know. You never know. Yeah. Well, Dan, we talked a little bit about what some other folks have done to honor the legacy of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. What would you do?
Okay. So definitely had some ideas, and there have been, naturally I was thinking, have there been stage adaptations? There was a stage play called Bette and Joan, and there have been musical adaptations of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. None of them ever really took off. I was like, oh man, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, get them back together again. And I was thinking, it would be I'm sure that there are campy stage adaptations out there, and that would be fun. My idea, my pitch here is a little atypical, because I'm going to pitch a remake, but not of this movie.
Okay.
And
go on.
And I'm gonna pitch a remake, and love and respect the memory of Rob Reiner, and one of his classics, Misery. I thought about
Misery a lot while watching.
Is that what you were alluding to earlier?
No.
Okay. I was so curious because I was thinking about, and of course, not only do we have the, one person in a wheelchair and the other person as the caretaker, but we have that, the mental illness. We have that kind of idea of
and
obsession.
Also, time out real quick. And for anybody who isn't watching on YouTube or Spotify, Dan is wearing a Stephen King Rules shirt at the moment.
I am. Of course, a reference to a totally separate movie.
Absolutely, but it does honor the author. So
Not unintentional.
Yeah.
It was more just like, oh, I fit in this again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, man, a Misery remake, but with women. Like I feel like, and maybe Stephen King would be cool with this, but I don't think there's anything about the character of Paul Sheldon in Misery that you could not change it and have you honestly do not have to change anything except for adding an A to Paul. Like there's nothing that character does that is like, oh, well, that needs to be a man doing it.
No,
an author finishing their last book of a series, car accident. We've got a car accident. We've got the caretaker who's obsessive. So it's a little bit of a cheat, but like you said, like what this is, you can't. All of the ingredients involved in Baby Jane cannot be repeated. You cannot Redgrave a remake.
Okay, first of all, well done. Also, you said ingredients, and it just reminded me about a few scenes in the movie where we see some food being served to Blanche. It's not spoiling anything to give it away, but she feeds her like dead rats and stuff like that. But like, she takes the time to like slice tomatoes to like put out underneath the like dead rat. What's the point?
Presentation.
Why put the dollop of cottage cheese on it? She's not going to eat it. I thought it was a funny touch that she sliced tomatoes and went through the whole thing.
Oh, I think it's absolutely perfect. I think it's wonderful, and I could totally see the character of Annie Wilkes, who Kathy Bates played in Misery, could totally see that character doing that. I mean, hell, Kathy Bates could play it again. No, I do think it would be a good opportunity to, and the movie came out in 1990, so it's 35 years. So I think of course there has also been a stage adaptation of Misery that was not well received at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was Bruce Willis was in it, and I don't. This was many years ago. But it was Bruce Willis, and I forget who was in it with him, but he played Paul Sheldon in it. So yes, a female-led remake, an all-female-led remake of Misery would, I think, satisfy the Baby Jane. And you could, Misery is campy as it is. The dialogue, or as she's, I always think of that line where she talks about like the little traffic incident that she has in town. Annie does. She talks about going into town and she gets all upset about it. And she's talking about the guy, and he wouldn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car.
It's so good.
So I definitely felt some parallels, and I thought about it a lot. And so that's my idea. Let's Misery.
Sure, let's Misery it. I like it.
What's your idea?
So what I was alluding to before, and you mentioned, the idea of doing like a stage adaptation for it, which, you said that they haven't really taken off, but maybe if there was one that, had a good enough team behind it, it would be fun to have it be a solid two-hander and do it like True West style, where they swap roles like every other night or every other week or whatever.
Yeah.
Because clearly there's the more fun character to play, and then there's the more like nuanced, serious one, and to do a swap would be a really fun way to do that.
I just remember.
But that's not.
I was just trying to remember who did that on Broadway for True West, and it was John C. Reilly and Philip Seymour Hoffman, if I remember
correctly.
That's true.
Yeah.
And damn, I am sorry I did not see that.
Yeah, can you imagine? Oh my God.
So that would be cool. Do you think, who I was thinking of? Cole Escola. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly.
Yeah.
And I like, of course, currently the toast of Broadway and for campy.
Of O'Mary.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so like that was kind of someone who I thought of like could actually maybe do a successful
Do both roles maybe,
or write it or just
Cole Escola also on At Home with Amy Sedaris is so funny.
Yes.
If you've never seen them on that, you got to check it out. But Dan, that wasn't my idea.
No,
my
what's your
idea is as follows. All right, so there's a Whatever Happened to Baby Jane remake happening in my imagination, and this is my pitch. So let's say there is in the world of there's a movie about a remake happening for Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and it's going to be made by like a super famous director who's coming out of retirement. And they're going to do this one film, and it's going to be like a reimagining of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. So all of the signs are pointing to it being like complete Oscar fodder. And the one thing that's known is that they want to do it, and maybe it's because I watched, Vanessa and Lynn Redgrave's version, but they want to do it with actual siblings. And it doesn't matter if it's women or men or whatever, or one of each or whatever. And so all of Hollywood's biggest acting sibling duos are vying for the role. So we've got like Dakota and Elle Fanning, Liam and Chris Hemsworth, Jeff and Beau Bridges, Alexander and Bill Skarsgård, John and Joan Cusack, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, whatever. And the movie follows each pair as they're like prepping and campaigning and going through the process to try to like get this role and like sabotaging all of the other ones. And the reveal is that all of this has been documented, and that's what the movie is the mayhem that goes into these sibling duos who are maybe at odds with each other at different times and kind of going through these motions and like bringing out the worst in themselves to get themselves back into like this position of being like in a great acting role.
I love it. It sounds like it would be a fun series.
Yeah.
It sounds like it would be a fun series, and it like bordering on, but no, because like this setup that you have, there's so many opportunities for brilliance. But it actually made me think. I was like, what if it was like a competition show and the sibling pairs had. Like I'm imagining like different dares coming into it and things like that, and it's like, okay, the sibling pair that can eat the most worms within 1 minute, gets Rats 5 minutes
on a plate on a platter of tomatoes,
like gets dinner with the producers.
Yeah,
right. Whoever can eat the rat, and you have to eat the tomatoes and the dollop as well.
Yeah. Maybe just in the world of this show or movie. They do all go on like Johnny Knoxville's new Fear Factor, and they have to like compete against each other on that in their duos. But I'd love to see John and Joan Cusack doing a movie together again. That'd be so much fun.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Jeff and Beau Bridges, come on, the fabulous
Baker Boys.
Just make it a sequel that Whatever Happened to
the Fabulous Baker Boys?
One of the Baker Boys. I don't know. Whichever Baker, I forget their names. Whatever happened to Mr. Baker?
Who was that in them? Who was that in that with them?
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah.
Yeah. What I was thinking about, and this is not a sibling pair, but just thinking about if you were going to recast the roles of, if you were going to kind of do a stunt casting for Blanche and Jane, it comes back to something you mentioned earlier, man. Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears.
Oh God.
How about?
Oh boy.
Oh man, come on, that would be fabulous. Come on, Britney's back, bitch.
I feel like Britney and Baby Jane maybe have too many similarities. When she goes on. Well, okay, but like when she goes on like posts like Instagram videos dancing with like knives and stuff, and it's it feels very Baby Jane.
Oh my God.
in
Baby
1962.
Jane on social media. Wow. Baby, honestly, like the age of social media, Baby Jane would have been TikTok famous.
Okay. I do not like AI. I avoid it at all costs, especially when it comes to generative photo and video.
Yeah.
However, if there was an account on social media that was the Baby Jane Hudson account, and it was video of Betty Davis as Baby Jane doing all of the things that people do for attention on social media, it would be kind of funny.
She would have done the Tide Pod Challenge.
Oh my God, that's going way back.
And survived.
Yeah, she's got plenty of other crap in her to counteract it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. That's the other thing with Davis and Crawford, apparently never without booze and a cigarette.
Yeah, no kidding. And you can tell.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell. So if any of you out there tuning in have any ideas of how you would revisit whatever happened to Baby Jane, email us, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. And hey, Dan, I just got an email that's saying that our URL, ruinchildhoodspod.com, is up for renewal. So I'm happy to say it lives on for another year. So go to ruinchildhoodspod.com for some other fun stuff. We update that with some cool stuff about each season, and then we've got some merch and things like that on there. So please check that out. Support. We've been getting a bunch of comments on some of our episodes on Spotify, so keep those coming in. It's really fun to hear from you. There was somebody who chimed in from our Phantom of the Paradise episode who said that they went to a screening in San Francisco, and Roger Waters introduced the film. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
You just reminded me another wonderful cameo in Feud, John Waters.
Oh, of course.
Love
Yeah.
when John Waters pops up, but yeah.
Yeah.
Roger Waters, totally different.
Right. But it's also just like, okay, cool.
Fantastic.
Like, Phantom of the Paradise, great movie to have like a, rock and roll legend doing an intro for it in San Francisco. That sounds awesome. So
Yeah.
if you have things that you want to chime in on about the episodes, Spotify is a great place for it, but also rating and reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts is a great way to let other people know that this show exists. We've been doing this for 311 episodes, people, and it's free. There's no ads. So
7 years.
We appreciate. Yeah. Isn't that wild?
7 years. I could have broken a mirror when we started this, and my bad luck would be running out now.
Wow, that chewing gum that I ate when we first did the first episode just pooped it out.
Finally made the long trek down the digestive track. A trek down the track.
Okay, well, Dan, why don't you tell everybody what we're doing in our next episode in our season, all with movies that have complete sentences for titles?
Well, our next complete sentence for title movie that we're doing is 1982's Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, directed by Robert Altman, starring Sandy Dennis, Cher, Karen Black, Sudie Bond, Mark Patton, and the aforementioned Kathy Bates.
There you go. Hey, from Robert Aldrich to Robert Altman. That's kind of tough to say all in one breath, but
when you're not planning on it, that's from Aldrich to actually, it's hard even when you are. So,
Aldrich,
from Bob to Bob.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, Dan, while you are on your way going into town to get your dry cleaning, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.